You just bought the toy, the one with the lights and the sounds and the 5 different modes, the one the algorithm showed you 3 times before you gave in, the one that promised to develop your baby's cognitive skills and stimulate neural pathways and prepare them for a lifetime of learning. Your baby played with it for 4 minutes and then looked away. And you're standing there thinking, what am I missing? What are other parents doing that I'm not? Why does it feel like, no matter what you try, nothing sticks, nothing holds, nothing builds the kind of focused, calm, capable child your baby has the potential to be? Here's what nobody is telling you. Developmental psychologists who study brain formation in early childhood have spent years trying to understand why children in Japan consistently outperform their peers in focus, memory, and emotional regulation, not by a margin significant enough that researchers felt compelled to find out exactly what was happening inside those developing brains and why. What they found wasn't a curriculum. It wasn't a method you pay for or a program you enroll in. It was 6 daily habits, practiced consistently from the first year of life. Simple enough that any parent can start today. And a 2024 study from Tokyo Medical University found that babies raised with these habits showed up to 40% stronger cognitive performance by age 7. 40%. A 5-year-old in Japan can focus on a single activity for up to 45 minutes. Most parents in other countries struggled to get 5. That gap isn't genetic. It is the direct result of what happens, or doesn't happen, inside the first years of a baby's life, and it starts tonight while your baby is asleep. Number 1, sleep is the first teacher. Most mothers think about sleep the same way. It's rest, it's recovery. It's the part of the day where nothing is happening, where the brain goes quiet and the body recharges and you finally get a few hours to yourself. Japanese child development philosophy sees it completely differently. Sleep isn't the pause between learning. Sleep is where learning becomes permanent. Here's what's actually happening inside your baby's brain during those nighttime hours. When your baby enters deep sleep, the brain begins a process that no waking activity can replicate. The experiences of the day, every face they studied, every sound they processed, every object they touched and turned and put in their mouth, get transferred from short-term storage into long-term memory. Neural connections that fired during the day get strengthened. Pathways that were used get reinforced. The architecture of tomorrow's brain gets built from the raw material of today's experiences. This is not metaphor. This is measurable neuroscience. Researchers studying infant brain development found that the consolidation of memory and the strengthening of neural connections happens almost exclusively during slow-wave sleep, the deepest stage, which means that every experience your baby has during the day is only as valuable as the sleep that follows it. A stimulating day with a disrupted night produces less development than a quiet day with a full, consistent night. The experience isn't the learning. The sleep is. In Japan, children sleep 11 to 12 hours every night. Same time, same routine. No exceptions for social events, for travel, for the occasional late night that most Western families treat as harmless. Because the research is clear on something most parents don't know. A single night of disrupted sleep produces measurable changes in cognitive functioning the following day. Not tiredness, not crankiness. Actual documented reduction in the brain's ability to focus, process new information, and regulate emotion. And here's what makes this more urgent than most parents realize. The brain your baby has right now is growing faster than it will ever grow again. Every night of full, consistent, uninterrupted sleep is compounding. Every night of disrupted sleep is a missed compounding opportunity that cannot be fully recovered. Japanese mothers treat bedtime like medicine. Not because they're rigid, because they understand what's actually at stake when that routine gets broken. Your baby's sleep isn't the end of the day. It's the most important part of it. But sleep is only the first habit, because the second one is something most modern parents have almost completely eliminated from their baby's life, without ever realizing what they took away. Number 2, dirt is not the enemy. Think about the last time your baby was outside, not in a stroller. Not strapped into a car seat moving through the world behind glass. Actually outside, on the ground. Hands in something real. Soil, grass, sand, leaves, water running over their fingers. For most babies in Western countries, that experience is occasional. a treat, something that happens on good weather days when schedules allow and the right clothes are on and nobody is worried about mess. In Japan, it happens every day. Rain, cold, wind. It doesn't matter. 1 hour minimum outside in contact with the natural environment. Not a structured playground with rubber surfaces and safety rated equipment. Actual nature. Dirt, trees, uneven ground, things that can't be controlled or predicted or sanitized. And for years, Western parents looked at this and thought, that's charming, cultural, probably not necessary. Then the neuroscience caught up. Researchers studying cortisol levels in young children found something that should change how every parent thinks about outdoor time. Children who spend regular unstructured time in natural environments show significantly lower baseline cortisol, the primary stress hormone, than children whose outdoor time is limited or structured. That matters more than it sounds, because cortisol doesn't just affect mood. It directly impacts the development of the prefrontal cortex, the region of the brain responsible for focus, decision-making, impulse control, and emotional regulation, the exact capacities that separate a child who can sit and concentrate from one who can't. When cortisol stays chronically elevated, when a young nervous system spends most of its time in environments that are loud, fast, overstimulating, unpredictable in the wrong ways, the prefrontal cortex doesn't get the conditions it needs to mature properly. The development doesn't stop, but it slows. And that slowdown compounds over months and years in ways that show up later as attention difficulties, emotional dysregulation, and reduced capacity for sustained focus. 1 hour of unstructured outdoor time every day creates the neurological conditions for the prefrontal cortex to do its job. Not because nature is magical, because nature is the environment the human brain evolved to develop in. The sounds, the textures, the unpredictability, the physical movement over uneven ground. All of it is input that the developing brain knows how to process in a way that indoor, screen-based controlled environments simply don't provide. Japanese mothers don't send their children outside because it's good for them in some vague general sense. They send them outside because they understand that the brain building the capacity for focus and self-control needs specific conditions to do that work. And those conditions don't exist inside four walls. Your baby doesn't need a better toy. They need an hour of dirt. But nature solves only part of the problem, because there is something else happening inside millions of homes every single day. Something that the research calls the single biggest threat to brain development in children under 3. And most parents are doing it right now. Number 3, the screen problem nobody wants to talk about. This is the uncomfortable one. So let's just say it directly. In the United States, the average child between the ages of 2 and 5 spends between 4 and 6 hours per day in front of a screen. In Japan, the guideline for children under 3 is 0. Between 3 and 6, the recommended maximum is 30 minutes per day. That's not a small difference. That's an entirely different childhood. And before you dismiss this as cultural preference, as Japan being strict in ways that aren't necessary, here's what the brain imaging research actually shows. Researchers using MRI scans studied children with high screen time and children with low screen time. What they found wasn't behavioral, it was structural. Children with significantly higher screen exposure showed measurable reduction in white matter density in areas of the brain associated with language processing, cognitive control, and the ability to sustain attention. Not less activity in those areas, less matter. The physical architecture of the brain different, in ways that persisted beyond the scanning session, beyond the day, beyond the phase. And here's the mechanism that explains why. A screen is not a neutral stimulus. It is an extremely high stimulation environment specifically engineered to capture and hold attention. Rapid cuts, bright colors, sudden sounds, constant novelty, all designed to keep the brain engaged without requiring the brain to do any work. The developing brain doesn't need stimulation that captures attention effortlessly. It needs stimulation that requires effort to process, the kind that demands the brain reach, problem solve, make connections, sit with uncertainty for a moment before resolution comes. That effortful processing is what builds the neural pathways for focus and sustained attention. Screen time doesn't exercise those pathways, it bypasses them. And every hour spent in front of a screen is an hour, not spent doing the things that actually build the brain, touching, exploring, moving, having real conversations, processing the world through direct sensory experience. The brain has a finite number of developmental hours in the first 3 years of life. What fills those hours either builds capacity or doesn't. A screen fills the hours, but it doesn't build the capacity. Japanese families aren't avoiding screens because they're anti-technology. They're protecting a window, a specific time-limited, irreplaceable window in which the brain is building the foundations for everything that comes after. And once that window closes, it doesn't reopen. Now, removing screens creates time. But what Japanese mothers put into that time is what actually does the building. And it's something so simple, it will surprise you. Number 4, the hands that build the brain. Picture a Saturday morning in a Japanese home, a mother and her toddler in the kitchen, not with an educational app open on a tablet, not with a learning video playing in the background, with dough, flour, water, salt hands. The child pushes the dough, pulls it, tears it, rolls it into a ball and flattens it again, feels the texture change as it warms, watches what happens when they press harder, discovers that if they poke a hole, it stays there, that if they fold it, the layers stick together. Nobody is teaching. Nobody is instructing. Nobody is explaining the chemistry of gluten or the physics of compression, but something significant is happening inside that small brain. Here's what the neuroscience shows. When a baby or toddler engages in hands-on sensory experience, water, sand, soil, clay, dough, cooking, gardening, manipulating real objects with real weight and real texture, multiple brain systems activate simultaneously. The sensory cortex processes the physical input. The motor cortex coordinates the movement. The prefrontal cortex engages with the problem solving. What happens if I do this? What happens if I try that? The memory system files the results. The emotional system registers the satisfaction of cause and effect, working exactly as expected, all of it happening at the same time. All of those systems talking to each other, building connections, not just within each region, but between regions. Researchers call this integrated learning. And it produces something that no single input activity, watching a screen, listening to a story, even playing with most commercial toys, can produce. Neural networks that are stronger, more flexible, and more transferable. The child who spent their early years manipulating real materials, who learned cause and effect through physical experience, who built their understanding of the world through their hands, arrives at formal learning with a brain that is fundamentally more prepared. Not because they learned more content, because their brain learned how to learn. Japanese mothers understand something that Western consumer culture has almost entirely forgotten. The most sophisticated learning tool ever designed is not sold in a store. It is not downloaded from an app. It does not require batteries or Wi-Fi or a monthly subscription. It is a handful of sand, a bowl of water, a lump of dough on a kitchen counter on a Saturday morning. And the research is consistent across cultures, across age groups, across every socioeconomic context studied. Babies who spend more time in hands-on sensory play in the first 3 years show measurably better outcomes in attention, problem solving, language development, and emotional regulation at school age. Not marginally better, measurably better. Your baby's hands are not just the way they explore the world right now. They are the way their brain is being built. Every time you let them dig in the garden, every time you let them help in the kitchen, even though it makes a mess, every time you put something real in their hands instead of a screen in front of their face, you are doing something that no educational product can replicate. You are giving their brain exactly what it was designed to receive. But there is one habit left, and it is the simplest one, and the one that the research says matters more than all the others combined. And it costs nothing, and most parents are failing at it without even knowing it. Number 5. The most expensive thing you can give your baby is free. Put your phone down, not in a minute, not after this message. Right now, if your baby is near you and you're holding your phone, put it down, because this last habit is the one that ties everything together, and the one that the research says is disappearing faster than any other in modern parenting. Presence. Real, full, uninterrupted presence. Not physical proximity. Not being in the same room while your attention is somewhere else. Not half listening while scrolling, half watching while answering messages, half there while the other half of you lives inside a screen. Full presence, eyes on your baby, face available, attention unshared. Researchers studying early language and cognitive development found that the single strongest predictor of brain growth and academic success in children, stronger than socioeconomic status, stronger than parental education, stronger than any early intervention program ever studied, is the quantity and quality of conversational language a child receives before the age of 5. Not television language, not background noise, conversational language, back and forth. The kind where your baby makes a sound and you respond, where they point at something and you name it, where they look at your face to understand what something means, and your face gives them a real answer. That exchange is the primary driver of neural growth in the first years of life, and a phone in your hand kills it. Not because you're a bad mother, because the moment your attention divides, the quality of that exchange collapses. The baby reaches for something and you respond a second late. They make a sound and you don't mirror it back. They look for your face and find one looking somewhere else. Those misses accumulate. Every missed exchange is a neural connection that didn't form. But here's what the research also says. And this part matters. 30 minutes of full, genuine, uninterrupted presence every day does more for your baby's developing brain than hours of distracted proximity. 30 minutes. On the floor. Eye contact. Responding to every sound they make. Following their attention instead of redirecting it. That's it. The Japanese method isn't really a method. It's a philosophy. Sleep that isn't negotiable. Nature that isn't optional. Screens that don't replace what they were never meant to replace. Hands in real materials. And a face, your face, fully present. None of it costs money. None of it requires a program or a product. It requires you to understand one thing. Your baby's brain is not waiting to be educated. It's waiting to be met. And every time you show up, tired, imperfect, without any particular plan, and simply give them your real attention and your real face, you are doing the most neurologically significant thing a parent can do. Not because you followed a method, because you were actually there. Tell me in the comments, which of these 6 habits is the hardest one for you right now? Because I have a feeling every mother watching this has the same honest answer. And if this changed how you think about your baby's development, the next video is about what happens inside your baby's brain the moment you get down on the floor and play with them at their level. What researchers found about those specific moments will change how you see every ordinary afternoon you've ever spent together.